Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman to take place at 154 with special exemption. Alright, y'all, it's your boy Cardinal Red Sports, coming straight out of Louisville, Kentucky. News has just broke that Errol Spence Jr. will be fighting Keith one-time Thurman in April. And this fight will have a special exemption. It would not be taking place at 147. It will be taking place at 154, which is very interesting. We got to break that down. And Errol Spence will not have to relinquish his title. He got a special exemption through the WBC. That way he doesn't have to relinquish his title. He can still fulfill their mandatory, but not have to put his titles on the line. What that means is he most definitely is setting up for a Terence Crawford fight sometime in the summer of 2023. It's going down, y'all. I think that that's the final nail in the coffin. The fact that he's going to do it at 154 and he doesn't have to put any of the titles up. But it changes the landscape of the welterweight division. A lot of ripple effects are going to come behind Errol Spence Jr.'s final decision. Let's break this down. So, Errol Spence Jr. will be making his return to the sport of boxing in April of 2023. They didn't give a specific fight date. They didn't give a specific fight location. But this news is coming from ESPN, Mike Coppinger, and a lot of other sources that they're finalizing the pay-per-view venue and the date as we speak. But what does this mean for the rest of the welterweight division? What does this mean for Keith Thurman? You know, I had some suspicions for a long time that he's not going to put those titles on the line versus Keith Thurman. I felt like he wasn't going to fight Keith Thurman because of the belts, being on the line. But this changes everything with him taking the belts off the line. And I kind of figured, too, like, hey, Keith Thurman's last fight wasn't at 147 anyway. Perhaps Keith Thurman will be fighting him at 154, which is what's now going to take place. It makes sense. I think Thurman is looking to move up anyway. I don't think he's looking to campaign at 147 anymore anyway. So it changes everything. And now with Terence Crawford saying that he's moving to 154, there's a possibility if these two guys don't meet in the summer that Terence Crawford's next fight will be at 154 with a special exemption now that people are pulling those out of the hat. And that changes everything once again. It knocks Boots right out of the running. Now they don't have to fight Boots once again. They can duck Boots Ennis. Both guys, if Errol Spence can get the special exemption, what's stopping Terence Crawford from getting the special exemption and fighting someone at 154 and not Boots Ennis next? Boots Ennis is next up in both of those sanctioning bodies, the IBF and the WBO, because Vergil Ortiz has a situation with the WBA and Stanionis. So a lot of moving pieces. I mean, how does the welterweight division recover from this? It opens the door for a lot of people because it means that once that Keith Thurman fight does happen, they're pretty much setting up for a Terence Crawford clash in the summertime. Hopefully they can get that done early summertime, any time in the summer would be great, but early to mid summertime would be great if they can get it done, for earlier fight day. Because I think what they're setting up for is the young guns to have a big 2024. Now, it sucks for Boots because that means he's going to have to take 2 more fights before he gets a championship shot. But in my mind, it's looking like both Terence Crawford and Errol Spence are going to make their exit from 147, and they're both going to do it fighting each other. Now, will that come with a rematch clause? I'm doubting it now. I don't think there's going to be a rematch either. I think it's going to be a one and done to crown the king of the welterweight division. And both Errol Spence and Terence Crawford will make their exits after that. Winner takes all. Loser moves on to 154 to try to pick up some pieces and salvage the end of their career. Wow. So what does that mean for the rest of the welterweight division? We have this title eliminator with Stanionis and Vergil Ortiz. So I'm thinking what'll end up happening with that is the belt will be up in the air. So whoever wins the Spence Crawford fight will most likely drop the titles anyway right after that fight and move to 154. Now the loser can stick around and try to fight for those titles with Boots, Stanionis, Vergil, whoever else is throwing their name in there, because there are a bunch of young guys looking to make their come up. And I think that's what this is going to be. It's going to be a free-for-all with the young guys for all those belts. And I think Errol Spence and Terence Crawford are bowing out of the way with basically this decision. This sounds like those guys have already worked out something in the background, and they're just going through the motions to get them there. I think the summertime is the right time to do that fight. It can be done outside. It's going to happen most likely in Cowboy Stadium. I think you're going to see 2 fights this year in Cowboy Stadium. You're going to see Spence Thurman in Cowboy Stadium, and you're going to see Spence Crawford most likely in Cowboy Stadium as well. Or they might take it out Vegas. There's a possibility that they do it on neutral ground to make the fight out in Vegas, or perhaps down in Florida to get it a little closer to Spence and an even bigger venue. I think the Florida venue might be a little bit bigger than the Texas venue. But this is big news coming out, man, and it totally reshapes the welterweight division. It gets Vergil and Boots out of the way of Spence and Crawford, and it actually opens the door for both of those guys to take over the division, and who else wants to throw their name into the hat. But I mean, you can pretty much hang your hat on both of those guys taking over the division, because Keith Thurman is now out of the way as well. I mean, it just opens the door right up for the young guns. And I think that Spence versus Crawford matchup is going to end up being one for the history books, the way that they're making it out to be at this moment. You know, the way they're setting it up to be at this moment, that's going to be one for the history books, man. And I think it's still a 50-50 fight, but I'm still leaning toward Errol Spence Jr. to win that. And I think this Keith Thurman fight, even though I think Thurman's over the hill, I think it's going to prove a lot. If Errol Spence can dominate Thurman the way he's dominated everybody else, Terence Crawford's in for a doozy. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me, share, subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. But you're more than likely to get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there. We are out of here.
Big blocks, big Chevy, big blade, big beat, big E, big money, big play, big diamond, big wheels, big rain, big shine, big chain, big gold, big flows, big time.
Hey yo, I take a hit of the weed and contemplate how I'm about to make the whole city congregate. Where I'm from, constant hate is commonplace. See the look upon my face, my ganja's great. KD told me that he was down south and he heard about keys through word of mouth. Now that's the type of shit to let you know I'm on the grind. A lot of niggas like I bet he blow, it's about time. Be patient, I took a vacation and came back with something for the ones that was hating. You still see me blowed at the radio station, but if they don't play it, dog, ain't no complaining shit. I'm still knocking them, ain't no way you stopping them. Chicks like cars, you with keys, you can hop in them. And you a true bitch, I stay off the brandy like Q Rich, trying to get a few chicks. I got some niggas on my team, and my niggas is me. I got some bitches on my team, and my bitches is cool. I got some niggas on the block, and it's starting to fly. Got some niggas in the hood, let me know what's good.
Big rim, big blocks, big Chevy, big blade.